Welcome to the Backyard Professor videos. I am the Backyard. I'm your hosting this game of Bobby Fischer. This is vintage a Bobby Fischer attack game. He plays Mark Surgies in a King's Indian defense. Fischer is the dark pieces. His opponent plays the white. Let's see how this battle goes. Fischer is going to fianchetto immediately. So is his opponent. Fischer goes to bishop g7, bishop g2, and now the first order of business is to get castled. Set up and get castled. So here we go. Now, the pawn center, the large pawn center, the advantage. Good space. Excellent way to manipulate, coordinate your pieces. The disadvantage is you have to guard those pawns, and that's a lot of guarding to do. But we'll see. Some players can make this work, others can't. Again, so beautifully Bobby Fischer. The d6 in order to support either the e5 thrust or the c5 thrust, or both. But Fischer does this often. Surgies is going to go knight e2, and there it is. e5, classic Fischer. Notice he leaves the tension. Just because you can exchange does not mean you have to. In the opening, especially in an opening like this where the center can be blasted away relatively quick, you really don't want to get caught with your king in the center. Tuck him away to safety. That is more important than worrying about taking a piece or a pawn simply because it's takeable. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it wipes out your position. There's so many factors that you have to look into to make sure your exchange is going to bear good fruit, not evil fruit. So he castles. Here comes Fischer bringing out the knights. Here comes his opponent, and now Fischer's going to gently press the pawn. He doesn't need to put it all the way up. Queen's going to come up. Rook's going to come over to the e8, and the rook is also going to come over to the e1, and now Fischer begins to say, okay, let's somewhat guard the queenside flank from idiot bad moves and forks that I know my opponent is more than capable of doing. His opponent's going to bring the a pawn all the way up, and now Fischer matches. He says, okay, well, let's meet nose to nose and let's have a conversation. The f3 is going to give good support for the center. E is going to go ahead and take the d4, and the knight is going to take the d4, and the queen is going to come up here to b6. Ooh, nice pin. That's an absolute pin. Pin to the king, absolute pin. The knight can't be moved. Now, if Fischer can find a way to attack the pinned piece, the knight, he can win it. Ideally by a pawn. However, in this case, it'll stop the pin. But then it could be a discovered check, except this guy's in the way. He could come and attack it, but then it could just move away. So, interesting for the moment. It also puts the queen on a nice, keeping this bishop home, because it'd be stupid to give that pawn up, although the queen is guarding it. So the center, the thrust is toward the diagonal here. Knight's going to come to e2, and knight is going to take the e4. Look at this, will you? Opening the file. Has he sacrificed the knight? F takes e4. Bishop takes d4 check. Remember the fianchettoed bishop. While our eyes have been focused on the queen pinning the knight. It was a double whammy. The knight was always under attack from the other direction, fianchettoed bishop. That's a wicked cross attack right there. So keep aware that when someone fianchettos their bishop, the influence of the bishop is just as powerful from up there as it is here. Here, it's still clipping all the way along, but from there, it's still clipping all the way along. Sometimes that's hard to grasp. Your piece does not lose power just because it's further away from the action. It still influences it. So now we've got a check. The knight is going to take the bishop. The queen will take the knight. Check. Nice centralized position. Just eyeing the center pawns. Can't take either one of them, but she's eyeing them. Plus, she's got that diagonal away from the queen. The bishop develops at the same time, putting the kibosh on the check. That's not bad. That's not bad. Now, where does the queen go? Is she trapped? No, she is not. She can come to the 6. This is what Fischer does so well with his queens. He'll bring them on a diagonal. He'll go on a diagonal. He'll retreat them on a diagonal, then zip down a file. His queens just roam all over the boards like this. It's so amazing to watch. Now let's get the second rook involved, the partial open file. Very nice, both central files for the white pieces. Knight's going to come to e5, a very beautiful central outpost. That one's permanent. The definition is because there's no pawn here that can bump to push the knight away, and there's no pawn here that can bump to push the knight away. The only way to get rid of that knight is going to be through an exchange. Therefore, that's a permanent outpost. Granted, it's not the best position on the board. In the center like this, though, on the frontier line, approaching the frontier line, the middle part of the board, that's a real decent knight. So Fischer's happy with that, is what I'm trying to tell you. Rook f1 tickles the queen, puts a little more pressure on that f pawn. Queen to e7. Now b3 gives support to the other two pawns. Don't let him become a backward pawn too far. Let's keep him in the game. Bishop to g4. Let's bring out another piece. Good angle on the rook. Very interesting. Rook will bump to d2. Then the queen will come to e6, supporting the knight, or the bishop, I mean, with the knight, as well as keeping touch on these pawns here. Very interesting. Bishop goes to g5. Let's see what's going to happen here. Bishop goes to h3 because they're on the same diagonal, the queen and the bishop. The bishop can exert great influence on that protector of the king, right? Technically, white would not want to swap that bishop. So Fischer is on the attack. Fischer is looking to create weaknesses, is what he's doing here. Rook comes to f6. Kablam! Very nice use of the partial open file. Tickle the queen. Let him know you're not going to pull shenanigans on me. And he goes, well, I'm not. I'm going to move out into safety. Nice touch on the bishop and the central pawn. Even though the central pawn is guarded, you got to keep your eye on that. But he's touching the bishop. Very cool. Bishop will come to f4, bounce back, put himself on an outpost with that pawn protecting. Very nice. Now the knight is going to come all the way to f3 check. Rather than move the king, he decides to exchange the knight for the bishop, which he does, and the queen will exchange. And now you can see some very serious, deadly potential combinations against that white king. This can't be comfortable for white. So, sure enough, queen's got to come back a little bit. Now that exposes the central pawn. Again, Fischer's queen she's powerful, man. Rook at f takes the d6, eliminating central pawns and doubling the rooks on the file. This can sometimes save a game. This is a powerful thing to do in an attack and a defense, because you know you've got your rooks covered and you can slide back and forth very quickly. So this is kind of nice. Queen is going to simply go to e1 check. What a fork. Check to the king, fork the queen. Fischer wants the queens off the board, doesn't he? Very interesting how he does this. And he gets it. Queen takes, rook takes, check again. He dominates the first file of white. The king is not in any real danger, but you notice he's narrowing the squares that the king can flee to because of that wonderful bishop on h3. Very cool how this works. Now the rook comes to here. Look who's copying. Whose file is stronger? Yeah, it's true. They both got files, but by far and large, black's file is much more valuable and usable, with the help of that bishop on h3 to keep that king in constant danger. So bishop will come to h6, trying to put a little pressure, and he missed the idea. He did not see Fischer's idea. Do you see the checkmate? Most of you do right now. Checkmate. This is fantastic because this shows you the combination, the power of the combination of rooks and bishops. Now, of course, the queen helped, yes, to get them into this position. But when you know how to do the combinations with the tactics, bishops and rooks are exquisite pieces. Notice also how he was able to dominate with both rooks on the file, and that becomes the file that keeps the king in the cage. There's the barrier. And then skipping over, he checkmates him. That's a fabulous game, man. That is vintage Bobby Fischer. I love games like this. I can't help it. I love playing through these games time and again. Watch this video several times, and you'll start to feel the cadence, the rhythm, the tide, the inflow and outflow, and the movement. It's absolutely wonderful. So there's your Bobby Fischer chess game for the day. Thanks for watching. Remember, be good, do well, have fun, make lots of friends, be good citizens in your country, stay happy. Life is good. Celebrate it. Celebrate it through chess. Celebrate it through good books. Celebrate it through being nice to people. It's fun to make people laugh and smile. I promise. I know what I'm talking about. I do it all the time. It's a great way to be. Go try it. You'll turn your life around, I promise. So, all right, you guys, that's enough for today. I will be back with many, many more videos coming up on our beloved Bobby Fischer, helping us strengthen our eye for the board and our power in the tactics and combinations. I will catch you next.